Hello guys, JohnRemus.com TV. Checking out this cool Porsche and questions, okay, about what wealth here. 10 fun things to consider when you're asking about your wealth and starting off from nothing to something. And part of it is terminology, as I always say. For example, I just said, oh, that car over there is cool. Or that it's important or valuable, and or terms like poor and rich. Maybe there are different terms we can use, but still be able to communicate to ourselves and others our intentions and what we want. And so, for example, you might say that. And remember, it's before anything else, it's what's behind something that has meaning. If someone just gives you luxuries or gives you something, then maybe you need it out of need for charity. But guess what? Something like a fancy car, and even the term fancy, it's opinionated whether something's fancy or not. What if we have a giant electromagnetic pulse and it shuts down all vehicles and makes it impossible to produce more? I'm just thinking out the box here, but the core of what I'm getting at is that when you have something, you have to. It's really all about what it represents. For example, you get a fancy car or whatnot. What it's representative of is hard work or good craftsmanship, or I'm talking specifically about the work that you do in order to rightfully earn the right to have it in your life. So that's number one. What things actually represent money and everything. It's what backs it that is meaningful. Hard work, industriousness, dedication. Financial prudency, and ultimately rightfully deserving things. So that's number one. But once you've got that out of the way, you can start looking at things. So first of all, let's take number two, this idea of a car. What does it actually do for you? Well, and guess what? The guy's actually driving out now in the Porsche. Let's check it out real fast, Cruising out of there, Cruising out of here, we're going. Basically, you have, just check him cruising out. And so that's fun, but like I said, what does it represent? Well, it might represent some comforts, air conditioning, transportation, nice music, attention from people. But all those things you can get from different sources. You can, for example, you can. Cool, bad. I mean, it does look cool, right? But the thing is, you can dance on the street and get more attention than you'll ever get from some car. Cars quickly lose their value. In 10 years, that car will likely, as we see by the pattern of things, likely not look new and fancy. Relative to whatever the current stuff is. And maybe if automobile manufacturers slow down or stop their manufacturing, that it'll maintain its style. And that the same goes with other things like design and whatnot. Maybe if less construction and this crazy pursuit of more and new slows down, then we can permanently appreciate and take care of whatever there is, whatever was made in 2018 and surrounding years. These are philosophical concepts surrounding the idea of what's made, what has value, and what about money. And Number 4, I want to continue on, and I want to say that, what about money itself? Well, printing cash money is costly in coin, and using it transactionally is a consummation of time. And instead of the quick digital currencies and using a credit card and whatnot, and something to consider. But there's something nice about cash and its tangibility, and but it says, "In God we trust," and is that so apolitical, non-denominational? Isn't America supposed to be, the money should be neutral? But the point is there's something special about cash. You can handle it, you can count it. That can be a nice sensation. There are different little tricks to wanting to save money and feeling good about it. And one of them I've discovered is you can put cash in a safety deposit box, and that makes it so you'll be less prone to quickly use a card or have access to it at all, unless you actually go in. And that might be, you can associate an embarrassment with spending in an imprudent manner, with having to go and ask them, can we go in to get my safety deposit box? But the thing is then you have other things like number 3. You have actually, are we at number 4? The idea of what's the best currency to use? Well, it's probably an e-currency, but am I using it? Not exactly. So there are balances to do, and sometimes it's a question of how do we transcend. The people who print the money and create it in a way have control over others, because they decide how much inflation or deflation, and then you have all these other factors of who has money, who spends it, and then of course other factors like number 5, the idea of who is how do you balance your budget and who's spending carefully, and lots of different things to consider. And number 6, how do you invest? How do you invest? Part of it is investing in the tools to make yourself feel you can better engage in your business, actual tools. And I think that's one of the transitions from being a child to an adult, is instead of buying toys can be fun as an adult, but you invest in tools, like you buy a new laptop, you can work better, maybe plane tickets, maybe a plane that you can share with people. And guess what? Renting can be a nice thing. You can rent a nice car or a private jet, and a bunch of people can rent a nice hotel, all mutually chip in, so you can have higher qualities of experiences, right? And there's also, though, these other side elements. Number 6 of how do you spend your money, and can you afford to be charitable, and when should you show off? Not necessarily physically show off maybe cash money you have, but is it safe to dress fancy, like right now, wearing a nice clothing? Is it safe to do that? Maybe you want to down dress so you don't attract the wrong type of attention, for example. And another big thing surrounding money is 7, is the idea of, when you use money, whose does it belong to? I addressed this in the beginning, but I'm going to say it again. Let's say you're a student. Oftentimes the idea of being spoiled, spoiling the youth. By the way, you don't care about somebody if you spoil them, if you just give them money, and with it, because when people don't see the value of things, when people just go to school or go on a vacation, or you give them a fancy jewelry and they haven't earned it properly, and then they're not going to spend it well. They might not even treat themselves well. For example, if you earn your money the hard way, you're probably going to be selective, extremely so, as to who you share your life with and who you share your money and your food with. But if somebody else gives you money, then you spend it, and you maybe have more casual relationships, no commitments, and you just maybe hang out with friends and spend money with friends, that type of thing, or on a vacation. How can you really enjoy a vacation or schooling if you really are sincere about, I worked for this, and what happens is people get much more selective about the products they buy and the things they do when it's their own money. For example, quality of things, like my shoes, for instance, right? Look at these shoes, right? Well, the leather bottom shoes, that this is going to last, a long time, likely my whole lifetime, 100 years possibly, if properly cared for. And I can even, it's all about, your perspective changes when you need to do something, when it's no longer a choice. I can choose to spend whatever I want. It's not of great consequence when you actually have a specific budget. And by the way, another thing is that budgeting, and there's better financial experts, of course, that can elaborate upon that. But this is my general sense of things, and yeah, I'm glad that you took some considerations.